Okay, so we've got a lot of. Oopsies. Here's a surprise. We've got some fun surprises. I think that'll startle the Catholic right that is always looking for heroes, looking for hero worship instead of looking for actual answers. Um, what we're exposing it's that the son, not only is he a member of the royalty, England, but he is the son of the Grand Master of the United Grand Lodges, Prince Edward of Kent, Duke of Kent, has taken over the Dignitatis Humanae Institute, which, as we've mentioned before, is run by Opus Dei, the Bush brothers, who are both Opus Dei supernumeraries. The vice president is this major Opus Dei guy. I wish I could show you the picture of the article because you have literally have these two supposed Catholics giving each other one of the Freemasonic handshakes. I don't know what it is. Now, this isn't some sort of goofy occult Freemasonic thing. Um, and if we go all the way back to the Counter Enlightenment, we know that Freemasonry, at least the Martinist branch, was incredibly pro monarchy and pro restoration. Uh, there was the Free and Accepted Masons, and then there were some other kooky anarchist groups. And all of this is basically the concept of synarchy, which is ruled by secret societies. It's simply because you had this extreme reactionary environment where dialogue is no longer possible, and therefore things have to be carried out in silent acts of terror. It's the same kind of thing that why governments are using cults and terrorist groups and proxy warfare today is because you cannot actually operate through the channels of dialogue. Why the back channel systems work. Um, so, the first article here, but I want to make it clear that the right wing of the Catholic Church, the rad trads, because this is where Steve Bannon's alt right um, training academy for future alt right Catholic pundits and all sorts of other pundits um, is also based out of. They're based out of the same monastery, I believe, and with some help at the Regensburg Castle owned by the Turner-Paxis family, who already runs a significant part of the so-called traditionalist movement. Um, we also have to remember that not only these Masons, but they're also some of them are Wolian fascists, um, people that are quite in line with the quote by I think it's Nicholas Dila, who says that the paganism is the other Old Testament of the Church. These people are insane, and they represent that movement of Catholics like C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien, and all these individuals who gave over to fantasy, to living in fiction, to writing fantasy about and entering the symbolist movement. Because eventually, after reason breaks down, once you accept the traditionalist fallacy, whether consciously or subconsciously, I'm sure people reject it in terms of saying I reject it, but they don't subconsciously. You have to turn to fantasy, and you have to turn to treat your religion like a fantasy and as a means of social control, rather than an actual religion, and rather than the actual Platonic tradition of the church, Christian Platonic tradition of the church, which distinguishes us from orthodoxy. Um, but here's the first article: a royal welcome for the Institute for Human Dignity. Now, the other thing is the DHI is in the immediate circles of Cardinal Vigano. Um, they don't particularly get along. I think Raymond Burke, Cardinal Burke, even distanced himself from this organization, although I'm not sure how distant because he still goes to the salon at Regensburg with Gloria Ternataxis. So they like to keep the distance from this sort of thing. But this is one of the major movers behind taking what Vigano has to say. And I think one of the major promoters of the Vigano letters that supposedly accused Francis of covering up all of the child molestation, even though Vigano was the one that was supposed to be in charge of it. You see, and allegedly Vigano helped cover it up. I don't know which way it goes, but where am I going with this? They want to use this to start some sort of coup against Francis. This is all over the media, and yeah, in the larger picture, all the British, a lot of British in the higher um, class are converting to this kind of Zionist, Conrad Black, Catholic Herald esque Catholicism. And you have to ask, why is that? Well, why is the royal family marrying into a black family? The whole point is that the British are adjusting their global control strategy. And it's not that the British control the world. Um, Far from it, but they have enough influence in the world to control a lot of policies, and they're one of the major families behind the industrialization policies and things like Agenda, not 2020, but the actual one, Agenda 2032 or whatever, the sustainability stuff. And they're the major ones behind the encyclical that Francis put out, and probably behind the Amazonian Synod. I don't know. It's hard to give a complete rundown, a quick rundown, as the Bogdans would say. But we're just going to get on with it because the article proves this son of the United Lodge of Freemasonry, which is quite common with the royal family to be heads of Freemasonry in the Commonwealth states. That's all the Commonwealth states. Um, this guy took over this Dignitatis Humanae Institute, which is the massive Opus Dei organ, which is trying to oust Francis and promote Benedict the 16th. Um, which remember, Opus Dei, their concept of the Church of the Laity is behind Vatican II. So if you think Opus Dei is some sort of paleo conservative movement, you're completely wrong. Um, they are more the revival of what was called the flagellance heresy, not the flatulence heresy, although it's almost the same thing. The flagellance heresy that was condemned at the Council of Constance, where you had a bunch of people, oddly uh, bearing striking similarities to the Cathar Albigensians, who would run through during the plague and whip themselves on the back. And one of the great theologians of the Council of Constance compared them to the priests of Baal, um, because this is exactly what the priests of Baal did before their sacrifices. They whipped themselves in the back till they bled. And so, but Opus Dei is notorious for flagellating and wearing the cleach, giving all sorts of money and alms uh, to the work, which is supposed to be the thing that saves Christian civilization. Um, I can't go into that right now. We're going to read this article. So, the 9th of October 2011, the Dignitatis Humanae Institute has announced the appointment of the regal Lord Nicholas Windsor as the chairman and leading philanthropist, Mr. Elis Khan as vice chairman. Now, Mr. Elis Khan is Opus Dei. Um, like I said on the article that this is from, which is Italian Insider IT, um, you can see Elis Khan and Lord Nicholas Windsor in a Freemasonic handshake. Uh, the institute was founded in 2008 by Nirij Deva, MEP, and Benjamin Harnwell, both British um, conservative Zionist. It's typical of the Anglo Catholics is to basically try to turn the Catholic Church completely into a British puppet. Um, who were part of the team which successfully launched the Working Group on Human Dignity in the European Parliament. It aims to promote human dignity in political and cultural spheres worldwide. Its basis is the Universal Declaration of Human Dignity, a series of articles drawn up by Catholic lawmakers, which recognizes the value of every single human life. Now, this kind of thing is the single issue idiocy that you see with the pro-life movement in, well, basically that countered Lyndon LaRouche's Club of Life in reaction to Club of Rome, which was a fascist organization um, made up of members of the P2 Lodge that had already been taking over the church at that time. Um, but essentially, the pro life movement rejected any sort of the only thing they promoted was anti-contraception and anti-abortion, and they never touched the industrialization aspects of this. And this all ties into Catholic economics, which are complete BS, except for like the Catholic Henry C. Carey, who promoted industrialism, promoted a harmony of interests, um, was against the slave trade, proved all of the Malthusians wrong. Uh, and who I believe that somebody like Marx absolutely hated, because Marx hated his predecessor, at least in terms of economic issues, whose name is Dürer, who was inspired by Friedrich List. Uh, but going on with the article here, Lord Nicholas, age 41, is a son of the Duke and Duchess of Kent and first cousin to Queen Elizabeth II. He was born 12th in the line of the throne but forfeited the claim when he became a Catholic in 2001. He's a patron of the Right to Life Charitable Trust and the Bromley Mind, a mental health charity. In these capacities, he's worked with other respected pro life leaders in Europe and United States. Lord Nicholas said he was immensely pleased to have been appointed. He added, defending the dignity of all human beings, and especially the innocent unborn, those most at risk, is one of the most important or urgent challenges we face today. He noted the delicate approach required, saying that it requires moderation and sensitivity and reasoned debate. Elis Khan is chairman of the Leonard Cheshire Disability, the world's largest charity serving people with disabilities, blah, blah, blue. He's an entrepreneur and philanthropist. I'm absolutely thrilled, he says, to be welcomed by someone with his profile as our vice chairman. Um, from my work with disability, I will be able to deal quickly with the and I can't think of the word. Try to make a joke, and the Jade Dyer mind rays are shutting down my mind. He said, from my work with disability, I will easily be able to work with the inbred royal family. Lord Nicholas will be replacing co-founder Benjamin Harnwell as chairman, and now Harnwell is kind of a go-between, I think, between Church Militant, who was Michael Forrest, Opus Dei, AIDS infected. And I do not go near uh, Michael Voris if he's flagellating himself and there's blood spraying everywhere. Um, but he was knighted by the Ternantaxis family in Spain, which is the Braganzas. Um, and he goes between them and was recently covering um, the gladiator school of Steve Bannon, which has now actually been allowed to pass through um, by Italian courts. Higher courts came in and helped them out. So people who say that that's not an issue, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so there we have the entry. Um, the other thing that's happening in Britain, like Tony Blair, there's a huge demographic shift in Britain uh, towards Catholicism in England. And there's actually a good article on this I have somewhere. What the heck? Oh yeah, UK's Catholic Herald, which is major shareholders of Zionist Lord Conrad Black, who in the 1990s was raising. He wasn't raising Catholic awareness for anything. His whole idea was working with the Anglo-Israeli interests to promote Israel and to help cover up some of the all sorts of probes and stuff that our government was doing against Israeli moles in our government. That the Clintons used to actually acknowledge existed. Now they got they were got to. But there's an article called UK's Catholic Herald hopes to tap into US conservative Catholic pool. And Lord Conrad Black comes from a long line of British intelligence operations. He was the protege of Lord Beaverbrook, who founded the BBC, which propaganda wing of British broadcasting. And then his participation in the Argus Corporation and all sorts of other things. We've talked about him before. Uh, but this article, you can go read it yourself. I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's super long, but it's seeking to tap into America's Catholic tribes. So in the 1990s, they tried to tap into the South and all sorts of the crazy Protestant religion stuff. But they're seeing a revival with the Catholics that will bring about something much closer to what they want, which is a world of regions, just like the Europe of regions, which the Bolivian fascists talk about and the Swiss fascists talk about. This is ultimately the goal. So, when the London based newspaper, the Catholic Herald, launched its new U.S. election in the mid November, it did so with a humorous explainer on America's Catholic tribes. And they do an ethnography on the six tribes plus a catch-all category for conspiracy theorists on the left and the right, sought to expand the oversimplistic dualistic descriptions of U.S. Catholics as either liberals or conservatives. And it goes into the entire Catholic setup inside of um, America. It goes into Breitbart Embassy, the name given to the website's headquarters. Which website? Oh well, here's the Brexit link. Today, UK Herald, however, seems more focused on Brexit than Father Brown. That's a Chesterton thing. We'll talk more about Chesterton. Its current owners are the British hotelier Rocco Forte and once jailed newspaper magnate Lord Conrad Black, who Trump pardoned. Um, According to a 2015 publication of Britain's Global Leadership, Forte is a sponsor and patron of the Bruges Group, a Eurosceptic organization that was instrumental to Brexit's vote success in 2016. Remember all the Barclay links to the Brexit and the fact that the Barclays are of the line of the royal accountants. Um, that the royal family absolutely wanted the Brexit to happen, uh, and the City of London as well. Herald leaders on this side of the pond appear to be following its parent's publication footsteps, aligning themselves with both conservative political allies and anti-Francis forces in the church, such as the Ethics and Public Policy Center and First Things magazine, among others, to deliver what's really happening in the Catholic Church, as the Herald's tagline promises. Uh, they have also consulted with none other than Breitbart News founder Stephen Bannon for editorial guidance. Since leaving the Trump administration, Bannon has been busy in Europe founding his nationalist nonprofit, the organizers of which now met at one of Forte's hotels, and working with Cardinal Raymond Burke, a leading Pope Francis critic, on a Rome based right wing Catholic institute committed to the defense of what used to be called Christendom. In his meeting with Herald leaders last fall at Breitbart Embassy, the name given for the website's headquarters in Washington, D.C., Bannon allegedly encouraged the editors to connect with Catholic influencers and millionaires as part of the defense of the Judeo Christian West. Maybe we'll read this as an addendum. I'll just make a separate video. It's a very long article, but if you want to see a British idea of Catholic U.S. conservative pool, read UK's Catholic Herald hopes to tap into U.S. conservative Catholic pool. Um, so here's the Berkeley Center at Georgetown University. This is their profile.